All right, here we go. Today we have Steve Murphy and Javier Pena, the two DEA agents responsible for hunting down and eventually killing Colombian drug lord and mass murderer Pablo Escobar, both of whom were depicted in the Netflix series Narcos, played by Boyd Holbrook and Pedro Pascal. Welcome to VladTV.
Thank you, Vlad.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Well, it's your first time here, so I want to start in the very beginning. And I have both of your stories, which run kind of separately and eventually kind of merge together.
Correct.
So I'm going to sort of start with each of you and kind of work my way down.
Okay.
So, Steve, I'll go ahead and start with you. So you grew up in Memphis.
Well, I'm from Memphis. I grew up in Murfreesboro, which is just south of Nashville, until I was going into high school. And then my mom and dad are from West Virginia, and they decided to move back home. So I went to high school and college in West Virginia. So I tell the world I'm a cross between a redneck and a hillbilly.
Okay. And you went to college, and then, what was it, your freshman year, you decided to do an internship with law enforcement?
It is. I started out at West Virginia University, finished up my first semester. My dad said he doesn't pay for academic probation to have me come home. Ended up going to Bluefield State College, which is now Bluefield State University. And they just started their criminal justice program, so I was one of the first enrollees in that. And then the next summer, so that would have been the summer of '75, I was the first student to partake of I did 5 weeks with the Sheriff's Department on an internship and 5 weeks with the City PD.
Okay, what made you want to go into law enforcement? Because your dad was like a preacher, right?
He was. You know, and after he retired from the ministry, he and my uncle opened a carpet store in West Virginia. That was one of the reasons they went back. And I was the only son in both families, and it was always expected that I would take over the business. I don't know if you've ever done carpet work. It sucks. It's hard work. It's manual labor. I didn't like it at all. You know, I was a teenager, so Dad was paying me to do it. But you started off sweeping floors and cleaning the bathrooms and all that, and then you had to work your way up. You know, my dad didn't believe in handing you anything. You had to earn it. But when I was 10 years old, and I think this is in our book, Manhunters, I think this is more in line with what got me interested in law enforcement. When I was about 10 years old, some buddies and I were camping out in our backyard in the summer in Tennessee. And we got out on our bikes, and it's midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. We're riding around the neighborhood, and there's an all-night laundromat. And we wanted to stop and get some sodas and some peanut butter crackers. And, of course, nobody had any money. So one of our guys said, hey, he said, I got money in my house. Let's go break in. We said, break in? And he said, yeah, because if I go in the front door, my dad will make me stay in. He won't let me come back out. So we go out there to break in this kid's house, and I guess we weren't cut out to be criminals. The police showed up, and they hit us with a spotlight, and we froze like a deer in the headlights. We didn't run or anything. We were too scared to run. And so the police came up, two guys, and we told them our story, and they said, well, you boys got a decision to make. You can either go to prison for the rest of your lives, or we can take you home to your parents. We all looked at each other and said, take us to jail. Because we knew what was going to happen when we get home, and sure enough, it did. I had a hard time sitting down for a couple of weeks after that. But all of that, I think that I was impressed by the police officers, and that's when they could use their own discretion to make decisions, where it's not so much like that nowadays. Everything's more black and white. But I think that's probably what got me interested. And since then, since 10 years old, never wanted to do anything else.
Gotcha. Now, Javier, you were going to school at Texas A&M University.
Yeah, it's the first one was Texas A&I University in Kingsville, Texas, and later on I transferred to the A&M branch in Laredo, Texas. Yes.
Got it. And I guess early on you had a 3-month internship at the Department of Corrections?
Yes, I had a 3-month internship at Texas Department of Correction at Ellis Unit, which is famous for they house death row inmates. And my first tour, I think they were messing with me. They said, Pena, you're going to work the death row unit. So you got to do roll call, right? So it was all this. There were some well-known violent criminals. So I'm doing, say, roll call, and one guy goes, boo. I throw that clipboard and I run the hell out of there, man. So I learned a lot. I did 3 months there at Ellis Unit in Huntsville. Then that's where I went back and finished my degree at Laredo. It was Laredo State University, which is now a A&M branch.
Okay, and what made you want to actually do this internship in a hardcore prison? Because from what I understand, your parents kind of stopped talking to you because of that whole situation.
Yeah, they didn't want me to go, and I'm from a small family. I'm Hispanic. We grew up in Hebbronville, Texas, population 5,000, very close, and I was going to Huntsville, and the whole family. They wanted me to stay close, and I always remember that day. They did not talk to me, and you know what? Later on, they appreciated that I left, and I think I learned a lot by leaving. Yes.
Okay, and what made you want to go into that field, though?
I was a sociology major, not even criminal justice. I was a sociology, psychology major, and it was just a posting. My sociology professor said, "Hey, anybody interested in an internship?" It was money. It was basically get a college credit and earn some money, and that's the only reason I took the job, just to make a little ends meet. As you know, we're all broke in college, barely making it, so that was strictly financial.
Got it. Okay, now Steve, you go and join the police department, and you start getting actually drawn to the drug part of the job, and this was like the mid-'70s when cocaine was starting to really make its way, through the country and so forth. So
Correct.
What was happening early on in terms of your police career?
Well, this was only a 35-man police department. We only had 3 detectives on the department. Excuse me. We really didn't have anybody working narcotics. In West Virginia, you go to the West Virginia State Police Academy to get your basic police training, and you had to live there during the week, but you could come home on weekends. So I came home one weekend, and my best friend had gotten hired with me, but he was on standby to go to the academy after I graduated. His name was Jackie. And I was out, it was a Saturday night, I was out running around, he was off duty, and we stopped, a friend of mine was working at a gas station, and he said, "Hey, you guys," he said, there's a kid running around here who's wanting to sell pound quantities of weed. And we thought, well, okay, can you order up? And he said, "Yeah, I'll call him right now." And I said, "Will he bring it here?" And they said, "Yep." So our friend called him, and the guy said, "I'll be there in 5 minutes." We go in the back rooms, the back end of this gas station. We're hiding like in a broom closet, and sure enough, the kid shows up, 17 years old, has a pound of weed, hands it to our buddy. We step out of the closet. It wasn't any of this slam the door and take him down or any of that. We just stepped out and said, "How you doing, pal?" And so what you got there? And we picked it up, and I opened the bag. He did a field test. It tested positive and said, "Kid, you're under arrest. How old are you?" He said, "He's 17 years old." Now, there's a more to the story that all these years later. So this was in 1976. We ended up dismissing the charges on that because the kid, his father came down and his family were solid citizens, no criminal records, anything like that. And the dad promised us he would take care of the issue. And again, this was in a time when you could use police officer discretion to make decisions like this. So we let the kid go. Well, about 3 or 4 years ago, before we retired from DEA, we weren't on social media at all. You couldn't find anything about Javier Pena and Steve Murphy. But now, because of our businesses and our speaking events and all that stuff, we're all over social media. And that kid, I'm not going to mention his name, but is now a grown man, successful businessman. And he contacted me via Facebook. And he couldn't have been nicer. He couldn't have been more appreciative of what happened. He said, you had sympathy, or you recognized that I wasn't going to be a loser, and you cut me a break, and and just honestly just made me feel like I had made the right decision all those years ago. Because it's not about running people's lives. That's not what DEA is all about. It's about trying to protect the public.
Great story, man. Great story. We need more cops like you out there.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
Okay. So Javier, you graduated from Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And then you joined the sheriff's department.
No, I was working at the sheriff's office and going to school, basically like a lot of us. I was working the night shift in Laredo, Texas, Webb County, and I was going to college during the day, and I was living with my grandparents. I had it made. I love my grandma, great cooking. She took care of me. So, I was living there, going to school, and working the night shift at the sheriff's office. And basically what happened next is getting close to my, graduating, I see a poster. And back, college guys, you remember when we went to college back in the 70s, they used to post the jobs on the bulletin board, right? So I see this DEA's hiring, and I didn't know what DEA was. I had to ask a buddy. I remember he said, "Stupid, those are the federal narcs." Oh, okay, I didn't know that. But what intrigued me was, I always remember it was paying $17,000 a year to become a DEA agent, while I was making like $9,000 at the sheriff's office. And I had some, I'm going to just try to be vague about it, some girl problems. And I needed to get out of Laredo, basically. I had some people looking for me for the wrong reasons. So anyway, I applied, and wow, but, I got accepted, And I was like, I left Laredo, and my first job was in Austin, Texas. And if you remember in the 70s, 80s, Austin was the music capital of the world. I got to see George Strait. It was great living in Austin. And I was there for 4 years before I went foreign.
Okay, so you joined the DEA in 84.
Right.
And during that time, that's when crack really started to hit all over the country. So what was really the effect of crack based on your job as a DEA agent?
Well, crack was reaching, but you know what was the drug of choice at that time? Was meth. And Austin was the methamphetamine capital of the world. Crank. We used to call it crank. It was easy to cook. We'd have people were cooking it at hotel rooms. We'd had people cooking in just little, makeshift little rooms. You know what I'm saying? So it was an epidemic. Crack was reaching, and also black tar heroin was big in Texas, in Austin, Texas, coming in from Mexico. So I learned a lot, did a lot of undercover. I almost got killed in one of my undercover deals, working the first time. And so I got to see all the smaller type situations, and as a rookie agent, you do everything, undercover, surveillances, put cases together. So then what intrigued me is I wanted to go see what the big traffickers go into the major leagues, go see the major traffickers, how they work. So that's why I applied. And basically, I think I applied to go to Mexico, and DEA made a mistake. And they sent me to Colombia, which my boss says, "Javier, you want to fight us?" And now had to go look in the map where Colombia was at. So with me, it was strictly a mistake headed to Colombia.